So I'm going to now hand it over to Bill Cunningham, who's going to begin the topical part of the session. And for those of you who have just joined, at the end of that, we'll have Q&A. We want this to be interactive, so please use the chat function within the Zoom platform to submit your questions. Thank you. Bill?
Good afternoon, everyone. In the early days of Airbnb, the co-founders noticed that their New York City bookings were lagging. One of their mentors noted that the listing photos were really bad. They decided to do a small and relatively inexpensive test. The two co-founders booked a flight to New York, rented a high-end camera, took pictures of many of their New York properties. They uploaded the photos and monitored their listing data. Those new images increased customer bookings by 2 to 3 times. The co-founders didn't hire a consulting firm or spend millions on advertising. They growth hacked a problem with a couple $1,000s. Then they took what they had learned and applied it to their other markets. So what is growth hacking? Growth hacking is continuously testing ideas to generate growth, then using the data generated by those tests to increase your understanding of how to deliver more value to your customers and capture more value for your business, putting more money in your bank account. Growth hacking is a framework perfected by a group of amazing, smart growth specialists in the tech industry. It is a strategy for growing your business without wasting money or your time. It's a perfect concept for small businesses. Growth hacking is about getting specific results, new leads, new customers, increased sales, lower manufacturing costs, or testing your product's pricing. So what isn't growth hacking? It's not a quick, rich scheme or a silver bullet. It's not about hiring the whiz kid or even a score mentor who will magically find that pot of gold for you. It's not just about acquiring customers, it's about every aspect of your business model. It's not just about marketing, it involves your entire team and every skill that your team possesses. So why is growth hacking important? Well, it's easy to blame everything on the pandemic, the recession, the health safety regulations, and the ongoing uncertainties. I think in today's environment, small businesses have bigger problems. The push to move some or all of your business online is challenging for small businesses. Using e-commerce and payment platforms is forcing small businesses to share more and more of your customer value chain with those powerful suppliers. Customers have more choices today. If you don't have the book that I want, I'll purchase it on Amazon or download it. Customers' attitudes are changing. Concern for personal safety is a major issue that many customers are dealing with today. I recently read that 35% of small businesses were in trouble prior to 2020. Many of these businesses never fully recovered from the Great Recession. Some are not financially viable. Regardless, they and all small businesses now have to contend with the year 2020. This year is a tough environment for any business to survive. Growth hacking concepts is needed to generate growth for your business. Before we discuss how to hack growth, you need to be able to assess your core products and services to determine whether you have a good product market fit. Product market fit is the degree your product satisfies a strong market demand. In other words, does your customers want your product? So here are some questions that you should be asking yourself. What's your competitive advantage? Why do customers use your products and not your competitors? Do your customers consider your core products or services a must-have product? How deeply disappointed would they be if your business went under this year? Do your products and services provide benefits to your customers, fulfill their needs, or solve their problems? Which products or services do your customers view as your core value proposition? So why is this important? You can pour a ton of money and into marketing products no one loves, but you're not going to generate new customers. Businesses fail when no one wants to buy their products. It is key that you have a strong product market fit and a clear understanding of your competitive advantage. You should understand your product's aha moment, that moment when the utility of your product or services really clicks with your customers. Some customers have a good basic product, but a great business model. Great business model could be is wonderful customer service, a great location, 24-hour delivery. This is called having a good business model market fit. When you have both a great product market fit and a business model market fit, your business is poised for growth. Apple Computer didn't create the first MP3 player, but they created a great product with the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Their business model, selling the iPod with an easy way to download music through iTunes, was an amazing new product and changed the entire music industry. I believe your entire customer experience should become a part of your value proposition, and including your own personal business values. Let me give you an example. 10 years ago, during the great flood of 2010, my basement began filling up with water. I called my plumber, told him my predicament. Within a couple hours, he had located 8 sump pumps in Massachusetts, picked them up, and installed them, making for 8 happy customers. That was the moment, the aha moment. He became my must-have plumber. If my plumber, and I'm sure he does, has multiple customers with similar stories, he has a clear must-have service business that is ready for growth hacking. Growth hacking involves 7 very simple steps. First, you got to decide what area of your business that you really want to focus on. Second, you want to generate some growth ideas on how to make those improvements. Third, select one of those ideas. Fourth, create a simple growth formula on how your idea will capture value for your business. Then develop a simple test to validate that idea, run your test, and then learn from the results. Deciding what area to focus on is the first step. You generally will focus on those areas of your business that will capture the most value for your business. If you're an online business, you may want to focus on your website sales before spending time building a second sales channel such as Amazon or eBay. Having one great performing sales channel is preferable to several poorly performing channels. If most of your sales comes from wholesale accounts and you know you need to increase the number of stores that carry your products, then focus on testing ideas to generate new wholesale customer accounts. At the same time, if you need more volume to support your wholesale accounts, you may also want to focus on testing ideas to improve your production processes. Once you've decided on your area of focus, the next step is to generate a list of ideas that you want to test. At this stage, don't spend too much time on any one idea. Your only goal is to generate a lot of ideas. Ideas should be submitted in a format so that you can capture the essence of the idea, the name, the description of what change it's going to be tested, the desired outcome, your growth formula, the type of a test you're going to use, and the estimated time and cost. You may want to use an index card, you could use a spreadsheet, or you could use a notebook. You should keep your ideas small and concrete. If an idea requires a large commitment of capital and time, break it into smaller chunks. So I'm going to use an example, to illustrate some of the things that we're talking about. But every fall, my wife and I make 50 to 100 quarts of applesauce. And so today we're going to make a make-believe business to illustrate, for illustration purposes. We'll also use made-up numbers that haven't been tested in the real world. We make all natural applesauce from Ruby Mac apples cooked in fresh cider with a touch of cinnamon. It's great stuff. So let's assume we market the applesauce to small independent grocery and specialty stores rather than selling direct to consumers. Finding our wholesale accounts is going to be our main priority. We'll create a list of ideas on how to obtain wholesale leads with the goal of having a sales conversion cost of no more than $50 per order. So I came up with a list. One idea was to purchase a subscription to LinkedIn Sales Navigator to find names. Another one is to get a list of independent grocery and specialty stores addresses from the Providence Public Library. Another one would be to purchase an email list from an email list provider. or attend a trade show and rent a booth to generate sales leads, or use Facebook's push advertising to independent grocery and specialty stores. So once I once I have my list, the next step involves selecting which idea I want to test first. And I recommend focusing on two simple questions. First, which idea will generate the most impact on your business? And then second, which idea is the easiest to test? In other words, it's going to take less time and less money. So which idea will create the most impact for our applesauce business? So I feel that LinkedIn and Trade and Show may be the best of the 5 options, but we need to test the market quickly. And I know the business database resources at the Providence Public Library are really good. So I decide that that's going to be my first choice. Which idea will be easiest to test for our applesauce? Will be easiest to test for our applesauce business. There's a learning curve for using both LinkedIn and Facebook. So I'm going to pass on that one for now. Purchase an email list is a great idea, but I'm going to have to find someone to sell me a mailing list, so I'll pass on that. Attending a trade show is going to cost too much for our business right now, so we'll pass on that, which again leads me to the library, downloading a list of retail stores to meet our criteria. It's free, and it's just a quick trip to Providence. The next step is creating a growth formula for your idea that will describe how you will capture value for your business. In our applesauce business, our growth formula will be a direct mail campaign. Letters sent times the response rate will equal the number of responses we get times the sales conversion rate, which will equal the number of sales that we get. The response rate tells us how well our marketing letter performed or measures the quality of our mailing list. The sales conversion rate is our ability to convert sales leads into customers. Both metrics are important and will require different types of growth ideas and tests. So the next step is to create a test and a hypothesis. So back to our applesauce store. The trip to the Providence Library generated a list of 500 potential customers in the New England area. So we decided that we're only going to send out 100 letters for our first test. The cost of the test is going to be $150. That includes the cost of letterhead, envelopes, stamps, and the cost of my compensation. Our goal is to have a customer acquisition cost of $50 or less. So why would I include the cost of labor in this test? There's 2 reasons. First, it creates a discipline that with every test you do, you base your hypothesis on the assumption that you and your staff will be paid. When you're starting out and it's only you should use whatever you believe you're worth or what you believe it would cost you to hire someone to do that task. Second, this process helps you learn how to scale your business in the future, because you will gain a deep understanding of how every key activity creates value for your customer and captures value for your business. It will also help you teach the activity to future employees. The next step is to run your test. Running your test should be an easy process. You should be able to complete each test within a short period of time. Our direct mail test probably will take no more than a couple of weeks with little work to do after the initial mailing. And finally, the last step is to analyze our results. In our Apple Store example, we generated 15 responses with 5 sales. Our customer acquisition rate is $30, which is obviously less than our goal of $50. So our test passed with flying colors. We're feeling great. However, one of you guys mentioned that you have a friend who told them that their response rate was about 20%, and our response rate came in only at 15%. So we decided to run another test to find out why. After talking to several of our recently acquired new customers, we wonder if our marketing message could be a little stronger. And on the other hand, maybe the list that I downloaded from the library wasn't as good as I thought. We just don't know at this point. So we decided to do two versions of our marketing pitch, sending half to a group 1 and half to group 2 for a total of another 100 letters. This is called A/B testing. If one marketing pitch performs better, you gain insight into your customers. Let's say that you're happy with your response rate now, but you're not happy with your sales conversion rate. What can cause your sales conversion rate to underperform? Your sales pitch may be wrong. Your pricing may not work for your customer. The terms may not work. Through further testing, you'll want to explore these questions and others that you think of. One of the things that you'll learn quickly with testing ideas is that each idea creates answers, but also creates additional questions. Our make-believe applesauce company beat our expectations. In the real world, you'll find that many of your ideas will fail. However, you'll also learn that those failures are just as valuable as your successes. You'll learn to trust ideas backed by test results over untested ideas that you thought initially were great. Every business should identify, excuse me for a second. Every business should identify one key metric called a North Star that defines what ultimate success is for your business. For Airbnb, it's nights booked. For WhatsApp, it's messages sent. For a restaurant, it may be meals served. For a plumbing and electrical company, it may be repairs ordered completed. In addition to your North Star metric, every business should depend upon a group of other metrics that provide insight into your business ability to deliver value to your customers and capture value for your businesses. You'll add new metrics as you perform more and more tests. Just don't add a metric just because it sounds good. Metrics that you don't need to test for growth ideas are a waste of time. Stay away from vanity metrics such as page views or Facebook likes unless you're using them in your growth formulas. Sales funnels are a growth formula that refers to the buying process that companies lead customers through when purchasing products. Everyone seems to have a different way of describing them, so I'll give you a simplified version of the stages of a basic sales funnel. Awareness is the first stage and is about letting your customer know that you exist. You can use social media advertising, signage on your storefront, running ads in your local newspaper, magazine, radio, TV, and outdoor. You can tell your story to a local paper and hope that they carry your story. After you've established your business, you'll rely more on referral marketing, letting your customers advertise for you. Once your customer is aware that you exist, you need to generate interest in your products and services. You'll need to sell them on the jobs, benefits, and problems your product will provide or solve for them. If you are an e-commerce business, you'll accomplish that through your website. If you have a sales team, you'll meet in person, that's after the pandemic is over with, to make your sales pitch. All customers will seek social validation through visiting your website, talking with friends, or reading online reviews. At the decision phase, the potential customer will most likely compare your products to your competitors. Depending on their business model, either price or value will be a determining factor. The customer should have a clear understanding of your competitive advantage at this point. The action or the call to action is the final stage. This is where the customer accepts your call to action, purchases your product or services, makes a payment, and then takes delivery of those products and services. Each of these stages are opportunities for more growth ideas and tests. Some experts include, as the next step in the sales funnel, customer retention. And I believe that, customer retention has its own growth formula and should be tested as a separate, should be tested separately from your customer acquisition sales funnel. The business model framework is a simple way to view and discuss your business and to break down your business into 9 different components. In addition to creating great products and services, most businesses will distinguish their business from others by tailoring each component of their business model. We have already discussed the first one, your value proposition. The 8 other components can be divided into 3 areas: the front stage or the customer related components, the backstage components that describe how you create and deliver value to your customers, and your profit formula that describes how you capture value for your business. The front stage includes your customer segments, your customer relationships, and your communication and sales channels. Segmenting your customers is essential if you want a better understanding of how to acquire customers, keep your loyal customers, and increase sales. You may use segmentation to improve your knowledge of your customers by sales channel, such as your retail store or your website store, by communication channels, email marketing, Facebook, or by product group. If you're operating a heating and, for an example, if you're operating a heating and plumbing business, you may want to market your heating services to your plumbing customers, and you may want to track the age of your customers' boilers and discuss replacement based upon your customer data. Customer relationships define how you acquire new customers and retain existing customers. If you have an existing business, most marketing experts will tell you to focus first on your existing customers to increase your sales. You will want to generate and test ideas on how to acquire new customers, retain existing customers, increase your customers' lifetime value within each customer group, each sales channel, and each communication channel. You will also want to generate and test ideas for your entire customer experience, including your basic sales funnel, awareness, interest, decision, and action, sampling your products, packaging your products, order processing, payment processing, shipping, and customer feedback. For small micro businesses, it's important to focus most of your time on 1 or 2 sales channels, then overextend yourself. Advertising and marketing companies will want to sell you their services with large slide presentations and wonderful stories. If you want to use their services, test their growth ideas to see if it actually works. The backstage focuses on your key activities, resources, and partners. While growth hacking is primarily focused on customer acquisition and retention activities, growth hacking your activities, resources, and partnerships may be a rich ground to deliver most value to your customers and to capture more value for your business. I believe the best way to hack your activities and resources is to eliminate and minimize the waste within those activities and resources. This isn't about making people work harder, working faster or harder. It's about working smarter. Lean thinking, another great framework, defines 7 types of waste: transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. And believe it or not, Toyota built their car company into one of the world's largest automobile companies using simple lean concepts such as minimizing and eliminating waste. While these concepts are focused on improving manufacturing processes, they can be used in hospitals, accounting firms, governments, and other businesses. We'll focus only on 3 of them: transportation, waiting, and defects. Transportation is the movement of resources from one location to another. This can include receiving your goods from suppliers, shipping your products to customers, moving products during the manufacturing or the food making process to the next production stage. This may be as simple as moving products 4 or 5 feet, moving documents from one inbox to somebody else's inbox. If you're an electrician or a plumber, it's driving to your next customer. Finding areas in each of our activities that create needless transportation costs is where growth ideas can reduce or eliminate costs. Eliminating and reducing these types of costs can reduce the friction that your customer experiences and creates a better value proposition for those customers. Waiting is the idle time caused when 2 interdependent processes are not completely synced up. Identifying the bottlenecks in your business can cause activities to stop. Focus on the customer experience and identify where the customer has to wait. What friction does that create? And then test your ideas until you create a workable solution. Defects includes defective products and services, error in billing and payment processes, errors created in key activities such as marketing, selling, and accounting. Build a simple reporting system to track and categorize all of your defects and errors. Defects that impact customers or happen on a regular basis are great areas to test. You should generate ideas to improve every key activity, resource, and partnership. If you have a piece of equipment that is always breaking down, it should be growth hacked. If you're thinking about buying a new piece of equipment, you should create a group of ideas to ensure that the purchase will capture value for your business. You should understand the growth formula for every major piece of equipment that your business owns. If you have a referral partnership with several other complementary businesses, work with your other partners to growth hack the partnership. If you have a great business model, then each component will have a network effect on the others. How well they interact will determine the scalability of your business. Building your business model is similar to deck building games such as Dominion, Ascension, or Mystic Vale. The right combination of cards creates an engine effect, allowing you to run up the score with every turn. Business models can work the same way. A great product coupled with a great business model will become growth engines. The profit formula has the last two components. This is your cost structure and your revenue streams. These are the components these components are just another way of viewing costs that you use by your activities, resources, and partnerships, or the revenue streams from your customer segments and sales channels. Understanding how you earn revenue and profits from your customers and the related levers that impact those profits is another area where you can test your growth ideas. When creating a growth hacking system for your business, start small. Remember, growth hacking isn't something that you do just for a couple months. It's how you continuously approach your business. Use a dedicated notebook or an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheets or index cards. Track your ideas, track your tests, and track your conclusions. Have a section that lists your ideas for each component of your business model. In another section of your notebook, record the growth ideas that you've tested. Write down your conclusions, celebrate your successes, and identify new ideas to address any testing failures. Create visual controls. That's something up on your wall that you can see every time you walk into your office that displays your North Pole metric and 3 to 5 of your other most important metrics. Growth hacking is a mindset. It's how you approach making business decisions. It's also about intensely focusing on growing your business. You may be comfortable with a lifestyle business with a small niche market that operates with several or no employees. That's great. However, you still deserve an annual pay raise, and growth hacking is a great tool to make that happen. One of the things I constantly hear from my SCORE clients is, I'm not good at data. Growth hacking is a learned skill that you can improve with every test that you do. If you practice growth hacking daily, it will become a wonderfully ingrained habit. Getting positive test results or even gaining valuable insight from a failure will give you a dopamine hit every single time. It feels good. It's your brain telling you you've done good work. Growing your business takes time and hard work. Get a mentor. Start with 1 or 2 ideas. When you've completed those first 2 tests, start 2 more. Don't stop. Over time, it will make a difference for your business. Okay, I think we're ready for some questions now.
Thank you, Bill. Really appreciate that. We covered a lot, and before we move into questions, I just want to mention to all of you that Bill, who has broad business and finance expertise, is joined today by Jim Muchler, who also has tremendous business and operations experience, and Tyler Bucher, who has broad business experience with emphasis on sales and marketing. So we can cover a broad range of questions, and so please, again, use the chat function within Zoom to pose questions for our panel today. So the first question comes from one of the participants who is a micro small businesses in textiles, and they do big online trade shows, another industry that has had to pivot. If that online trade show expense doesn't bring any sort of benefit or meaningful customers, are they able to recoup any costs of participation? The person questions whether going big into an online trade show is a bit risky if they're really not sure what kind of outcome there could potentially be. So I think in in another way, this person is testing something. I think the idea is to do something online, testing that, but there's some risk involved. Maybe Bill, we could start with you, some comments.
So was there a question about recouping trade show costs?
Correct.
Okay, so I would look, into the agreement that you had with the trade show organizers. Most likely, you probably, are not going to be able to recoup that. A lot of businesses are providing credits for their, a year from now. I would try to negotiate some way of getting benefits, at least in the future, if they won't refund you today. Go ahead.
I just want to add to that. Coincidentally, I have 2 clients who had spent money to participate in in-person trade shows. Those contracts, when we looked at them, did not provide for any kind of refund. And if the event had to be canceled, the live event had to be canceled, it was in the sole discretion of the sponsor whether those funds would be refunded. So I think to Bill's point, the language in the agreement is one thing. And then I think the other thing, maybe Tyler, you might have a comment on how, if trade shows are a principal means of reaching customers, how to really approach and assess risk benefit so she could make a decision really on whether to jump in.
Sorry, I had to quickly unmute myself. I think that's a challenge that's facing a ton of small businesses right now. And I was actually talking with a colleague of mine at Vistaprint recently, and they were talking about how so much of what they do is create the branding and the marketing that you need for those online trade shows. And I think what I'm seeing from a lot of the online shows, and I'm not sure if you're seeing that as well, and we can talk more offline, is that they are answering those kinds of questions. So if they're not seeing the same registration of people coming, or people that they think you're going to get visibility to, as well as what like relative to the reach that you would typically get, then you can make a decision in advance as to whether or not you want to be part of it. But I think the bigger question is, how can you get around it in the event that these that they're not reaching the right amount of people for you? And I think that's going to be a combination of speaking directly with a lot of these venues, because I think and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone here is wrong, thinks this is wrong, but what I'm seeing is that they're pivoting as quickly as they can as well to try to figure out what are other ways we can do it. People who would normally attend are now getting, samples to their homes. I'm hearing it all over the place, from fundraising all the way to online marketing. So I'm not sure if I want this to be a helpful answer, but I actually haven't cracked the code on what option B is in the event that you can't reach the same number of people that you typically would have reached. But I definitely think there's more and more tools coming out of those events.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
I'll get to Bill Cunningham in a second, but I love this kind of interaction. We actually have other participants that are sort of weighing in, and one participant is one of our subject matter experts and SCORE mentors, suggests that if practical, I know some of these trade shows are once a year or maybe once every 6 months, but if practical, he suggests rather than paying for that initial show, visit as a guest to figure out how impactful it really is going to be. Talk to exhibitors, get some competitive insights, bring business cards, a way of jumping in maybe for not the same expense, but still able to make an impact. So thank you, Bill. I think that's a good comment. Another participant, Luis Pinga, has suggested that you maybe consider utilizing something called buffer.com. This person helps people market collectibles by posting listings on social media, and they've used buffer.com to increase production and lighten that that burden. So just an initial thing to consider. We have another question that's a more general comment, but Tyler, I know you responded to it in chat. I'm going to ask you more generally just to discuss email marketing, and really in the context of Bill's, you know what, let's pause on that. Bill, I'm sorry, before we move, I forgot that you had another comment on this person's question.
Yeah, I just, on the trade show, I would suggest doing a growth formula. Find out from the trade show sponsors, the estimated amount of people that are going to attend. Figure out how many people that you think you're going to be able to get to view your presentation, and figure out what you need for a sales conversion rate. And then, if you can make a small investment to do it, it may give you a better understanding on how to, approach future online trade shows.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Tyler, I'm going to ask you maybe to talk a little bit more and elaborate about email marketing and how someone who wanted to try that as part of a growth strategy might kind of think about that, set that up, and identify a metric or two.
Yeah, so I think there's two ways that you can use email marketing to your advantage. And Bill, please jump in at any time. But the first is to get new consumers, and the other one is to try to grow the basket of the consumers that you already have and use them as your own sort of ambassador. So I think what Bill was talking about in his example of what you would do as the applesauce company, that has, if you can send out 100 emails or 150 emails to people that you don't know and get a couple of responses, that's a huge benefit to a small business. But you have to know in advance that the open rate is probably going to be low. If people aren't familiar with your service, they might, they just might delete it completely. So the key is, like, can you have something that's super exciting, like a visual that leads into that email? And so that's the first part of it. And that's literally just doing the work. I think the way that, Bill was sort of alluding to is like getting those people, finding the right kind of message. So for applesauce people, it's like, maybe this list comes from, it depends on whether or not it's consumer or retailer. So if it's retailers, they carry applesauce. If it's consumers, it might be people who already buy apple butter or, other types of sauces or want to try new things. Or, there's so many different ways you can filter and sort by industry or by likes and dislikes. And then the second part of it is, once you get a couple of people on your site and they're actively on there, one of the things that I used to run a direct-to-consumer business with collectibles, and it's similar to what Louis Pingo was saying here to everyone, is that it was just an amazing opportunity to get people to subscribe, and then you start speaking to them in the way that they want to be spoken to, and then also recognizing that they might want to respond back to you and taking that as an insight. And even though it's one person and it's sort of typically kitchen research, every single piece of data that you get from people, how quickly they open, what they read, and then if they respond, is really, really valuable.
Great, thank you, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
I think a general question we have for the panel is more about, the ways the business functions in kind of operationally. So in implementing a growth hacking approach, and maybe Jim will pose this question first to you, how do they think about all the activities and just start to boil down to the ones to look at that might create the greatest impact and the greatest improvement? Where should they start?
Some of that may start with data. Some of that may start with data such as, there are a variety of channels that a small business may be using right now for solicitation, and trying to identify where the primary volume is coming from and where there is a low interest being demonstrated. So, for example, we recently ran a program on social media marketing, of which the type of marketing that you do will identify pluses and minuses. It will connect with certain clients that maybe are right for you. And so first of all, picking that right platform to use. But then, operationally, you may find that particularly in this post-COVID environment, that your business model is shifting. And so, you know, you're choosing then, instead of direct sales in a brick and mortar, finding other ways to move forward. So you may have operational decisions on, do I continue to sell in this manner? Do I continue to sell through this particular channel? And then managing your own social media platforms as well.
Thanks, Jim. When a business involves, you know, a lot of activity in a supply chain, so there's lots of external contingencies. Maybe it's a restaurant that needs to get supplies and material on time. What's the best way to approach a growth hacking exercise and consider things that the business doesn't necessarily control? Maybe we'll have you take a shot at that one, Bill.
So the thing I like about, I mean, when you're hacking your expenses and your activities of a business and trying to improve, you know, whether it's transportation, every business is going to be is going to have a slightly different type of, I mean, issues that causes those frictions to happen within their organization. So I think one of the best ways of doing it is to engage with those, I mean, your employees or with vendors where you've identified a problem that you'd like to resolve, and just sit down and just brainstorm different ideas. And you'll find that, I mean, even if you may come up with 10 ideas, you test a couple of them, and something, I mean, even if those tests fail, they lead you to a new idea that you never thought about before. And that actually is the thing that actually solves your problem. It solves your problem. So that's what, I mean, growth hacking, that's where, that's what that process is all about. It's exploring, it's keeping an open mind, and approaching solving those kinds of problems that way.
Good. Thank you, Bill. Question about cadence. So you've commented, Bill, in describing this, you know, keep some sort of cadence, but how often should this be occurring for a small business, say 5 employees? Is this something that they should do every week, every month? How should they think about that, as well as their capacity really to change?
Okay, so my feeling, I would be running a couple tests on an ongoing basis. I would make it a part of the way I operate it. Because one of the things you're going to find with growth hacking, particularly like when you start to grow, you start to look at, I mean, your activities, and you really do a deep dive in a lot of your activities. You're going to find that the waste, and how I described waste during my presentation, those, I mean, you know, when you start to discover things that don't add any value to your company, and you start to eliminate those things, you're going to find you're going to have more time on your hands. And that's one of the things. I mean, I remember one guy I used to work with, and he was a board member, and he operated another business in the same office suite that I worked in, and he would come in around noontime every day, and he'd be gone by 5 o'clock. He spent all of his time, testing ideas and testing, business concepts, and then finding the one that really worked and then exploiting that. He always was creating more value than I think sometimes the organization I was working with, that was more of a traditional long-term organization, just because of the way that he approached it. But for him, growth hacking was just a way that he, operated his business. Was pretty much what he spent 80% of his time on. And I think most people, when you start to get into it, you're going to find that growth hacking just becomes a way of the way that you approach everything about your business.
Thanks, Bill. Jim?
So, I mean, Bill mentioned earlier about the lean aspects of managing your operation. When you think about what's your true north here, is your growth about the number of people you count as your customers, or is it about profitability, or is it some other number in your operation? And if it happens to be, for example, that you're looking at profitability, it broadens the picture to help you understand then, well, where am I incurring costs in the production process that are perhaps unnecessary? And to Bill's point then, you're observing, you're asking questions of your employees, you're asking questions of your customers, you are open and inviting to input about things that aren't working well in the organization. And again, trying to find opportunities to improve the efficiency of your production system so that in the end, your profit rises. So again, it depends on what your target is. Is that true north profit, or is the true north customer counts or something else?
I think that's a good segue to one additional question that we've had, and it is growth hacking primarily a numbers analysis task? So I think to ensure that we really get this idea across that growth hacking is about all aspects of the business, maybe you could comment on that, Bill. Is growth hacking primarily a numbers analysis task?
No. When you when you're growth hacking sales, you're going to be, and your growth, you're looking at your customer segment. You're looking at a lot of data to be able to determine what's going to improve improve your retention or your sales acquisition. If you're looking at the customer value chain, and maybe it's taking your payment process is too bulky. You're requiring too much information every time. That's not a numbers thing, but it can make a huge difference on whether or not you complete sales. When you're pitching, if you're selling, you got salespeople, pitching products to customers. Your script may not be, how you're presenting your ideas may not be, or your products and services may not be clear, and tweaking your scripts can make a big difference. So you're going to find, I don't know what the right number is, but you're probably going to, find that, as far as like dollars and cents kinds of tests will probably, maybe 30-40% of your tests. The rest of your tests are going to be, I think, more, more non-financial in nature.
Good, thank you. Well, we are getting close to the top of the hour, and I think we have gone through all the questions that we've received from the participants today. So I think before we leave, I do want to mention that your SCO Rhode Island chapter is going to be providing another session next Thursday. We're going to focus on updates with respect to the Paycheck Protection Plan and EIDL loan issues. As many of you know, there's a lot of activity in Congress right now, but there are still a lot of remaining questions, not only for those who have sought funding from those programs, but those who are interested if those funding opportunities are extended. So you can go to ri.score.org to register for that session. It is next Thursday, same time, same channel. So I want to thank our panelists, Bill, Jim, Tyler, for your involvement today. Thank you all participants very much, and have a terrific day. Bye-bye.